Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the YVR Remo Show. I am your host, Alex McFadden. Today, I have a special episode for you all, an in-person interview. I was so excited to have an in-person interview today. We have a gentleman by the name of Michael Ponte. Michael Ponte is a guy that I've had a chance to get to know really well over the last 12 months. And he is a very knowledgeable real estate investor. Mike runs a Facebook group called Savvy Investor that's grown quite a lot over the last few months, specifically during COVID. And Mike's, one of his biggest things is giving back to the community through education. And it's something that we appreciate a lot in what we do. And personally, myself, because I love sharing knowledge and educating people. So today we had Mike come on the show, and I wanted him to talk a little bit about his most recent acquisition of a multi-unit building, talk a little bit about what he sees going on with the market and how he looks at investment properties. And more particularly, a lot of people who are listening to our show may not be investors yet, or may just be getting started in real estate investing. So we wanted to get his insight into his recommendations for investing into the market. So Mike Ponte joins us today for a fantastic episode. But before we get started, the best part of our show, my favorite part of this show, is giving away one of these bad boys, the Thrive Mortgage Co. mugs. If you're listening, I am holding up this campfire style mug. It's got a beautiful orange rim. It's extra large, and the feedback has been phenomenal. So we got the Thrive Mountain logo on there. Trust me, you guys are going to want one of these bad boys. In order to get one of these, you need to leave us a review. Now, you can leave us any review. We like an honest review, but at the end of the day, we're hoping for a 5-star review if you're loving it. And if you leave us a 5-star review, make sure to send us a snapshot. Let us know, and we will send you one of these mugs with some delicious coffee, and we want you to take a photo, so send it to us. So make sure to enter. But this week's winner is Azen. Oh man, I'm gonna struggle pronouncing this, but it's AZN. SENZN. So Azen Senzen. So Azen Senzen, make sure to send us your contact information. Azen says, we are Vancouver's most important real estate podcast. I'm blown away. Most important real estate podcast. Love it. As an investor, I tune into this podcast for information. These guys just don't disappoint. Azen Senzen, thank you so much, sir, for this information. Guys, enjoy the episode today. It's a good one with Michael Ponte. I think you're really going to love it. And make sure to check out his Facebook group. We'll talk to you soon. What's up, guys? You are listening to the YVR Remo Show, where we talk all things Vancouver real estate and mortgages, take boring topics and make them interesting. Make sure to stay tuned to listen to everything you need to know how to put cash back in your pocket, create wealth in real estate, and simplify the complicated. I think this is probably our first in-person interview we've had since like June. So pumped to have you face to face, not just the Zoom, which is cool, but we had to sit COVID distance, which is always fun. Mike, there's some people, we did the intro, so people know who you are and kind of a brief overview as to what you do. But one of the reasons I had you come down, Mike, is because we've had a chance to connect quite a bit over the course of the last 6 months or so. For sure. I mean, we met a long time ago, actually, at the gym on accident, which is hilarious.
Yep.
Before even knowing that we were in the same industry. And then kind of by accident had a chance to have a coffee and then throw in a seminar about 6 to 8 months ago, which is a cool experience and had a lot of fun. But that's where I learned that you're a big educator.
Yeah.
And your expertise, and we were just chatting about this, in real estate investing is actually, it's the investing part for sure, but it's in educating and connecting people with the knowledge that they need. So for anybody who doesn't know, Mike, you are from which company?
Company is Prosperity Real Estate Investments. Been investing for roughly around just under 20 years right now.
Cool.
We got our Facebook group, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. It's called Savvy Investor. So for those that are kind of listening, definitely check it out. But we love to have you. But again, it's really focused on the educational side and trying to help people, learn this world called real estate investing. And there's lots of information out there. And for us, we just like to share. So
yeah, and I think this interview is really timely because, Mike, to your point, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show now, obviously we're post COVID at this point right now. Sure. We're figuring out where the new normal is. The industry is going crazy in so many different ways with low interest rates and sales and so forth.
Yep.
But we've had a chance to kind of find a groove, if you will, in the space.
Yeah.
And I think the investors are starting to find the opportunities as they are today, or as they have been over the last few months, and where they might be going now that things are kind of settling in.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have you come down and give us some feedback as to where things are at today from an investment standpoint, some of the opportunities are, and where they might be going, as well as maybe we can go over a little bit of if someone's listening to this their first time, they're just thinking about getting into the market, where they would start. So why don't we just start off with a little bit about where you're currently investing today? I was just talking about you, because I know you just closed on a deal recently.
Yeah, we're just closing on a 12-unit apartment building, believe it or not, in Edmonton, and it's just a fantastic project. So Edmonton's still kind of a market that we still pay really close attention to. We really like Halifax. New Brunswick are another market that we really see a lot of interest. There are places in Ontario that makes some marginal sense. Unfortunately, the cash flow is just not necessarily there. So I'm a big believer when it comes to investing in real estate. Properties have got to have some type of an equity position, which means you're trying to buy a property with a little bit of equity. That means some maybe form of distress. So if the market is here, we're going to be looking at kind of a little bit of a price variance. But the big one for us as an investor, the property has to cash flow. And so for us, that's an important piece. So when I teach or share, or I work with my investment partners, any project that we pay any attention to, or that we have any interest in, is like a small business, any business. And so you would never buy a business that doesn't generate any income. It doesn't really make any sense. And we treat real estate exactly the same way. So when we're buying a piece of real estate, what's the profit? How is this thing going to be making any money? So we look for markets that have kind of a future, not necessarily a past. And more importantly, the business itself or the real estate transaction is generating some form of income, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So
so we talk about, so you hit Edmonton, you hit Halifax.
Yep.
And Edmonton let's just talk about Edmonton for a minute. I think that's been a little bit of a, depressed market, but it's been a market that's been pretty stagnant for a few years now. And we do hear of a lot of investors going there still. Year over year, it seems to be that way. One of the drawbacks, obviously, is the appreciation value may not be coming in, at least not in the short term.
Correct.
Although we hope it does in the long term.
Yep, for sure.
Do you think that just from people that live on the West Coast, there's a lot of people who listen to our podcast from Vancouver and surrounding areas.
Absolutely.
How are your feelings towards that, not having the appreciation, at least recently, and being more depressed right now? What is your outlook on what Edmonton's future is going to be? And does that even have a play? Because you just talked about cash flow as your primary thing.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And so it's a great point, because in a lot of cases for a lot of our investors, when we talk about appreciation, that's kind of almost a little bit of a speculation game. Nobody necessarily knows what the market is going to dictate. And even when we look at any real estate transaction, what we're looking is for a diverse economy where they've got lots of different types of jobs that are being created, immigration, some growth that's actually happening, housing starts, all of those types of things that are showing some kind of stability within the economy in itself. And you're right, Edmonton has not seen very much appreciation at all. And that's why it's important when we do a lot of our analysis, we base it on kind of two key criteria. Number one, mortgage pay down is going to be one of the big pieces, just like any real estate transaction. That's the one thing we know we will able to be generating when we're looking at an investment. Mortgage needs to be paid down. The bank's going to have to get paid no matter what. That's going to happen. So that's something that we know and can have clarity to, because that's going to happen every single month. The second part that we can have some reasonable understanding with is the income stream. What is the rents going to be? What is kind of the purchase price? What are some of the expenses? We will know what those expenses are. And more importantly, what do we know what the market rents are going to be? So at the end of the day, we'll see exactly what that property is going to be spitting out cash each and every single month. So we have those two main nuggets. And to me, those are the most important pieces, because if you've got control and if you have clarity between both of those, it can ride out any type of recession whatsoever. If the property is generating cash flow in a stagnant market and is putting money in your jeans every single month, that property is being paid down every single month. If the market even goes up 1% or 2%, that I call is the cherry on top, the appreciation. That's what I reference. I always use the analogy that real estate investing is like an ice cream sundae. The mortgage pay down is the ice cream. Then you've got the cash flow, which is the chocolate sauce. And then the appreciation, that's kind of the cherry on top. And you're right. The guys here in the West Coast, I live in Vancouver as well, in Langley, right not far from you guys here. And, we're seeing market appreciation going over and over and over again. And it's really just continuing. But the problem is we've seen it been appreciating since almost 2001, 2002. constantly. And so that's kind of the expectation. You got a generation where you're seeing that properties are going to appreciate between 10, 12, 13% per year, and they think that's the norm. But when you look at other parts of the country, that's not the norm. Other than Toronto, you tend to see the same type of statistics. So the concern that I always have is in these type of markets like Vancouver and Toronto, if there is some instability, that's a little bit concerning. And then for people that are buying properties that are not able to sustain themselves, that's where trouble starts to kind of come in. And we've seen a lot of that stuff happening down in the States back in 2008, 2009. So,
yeah. So, I mean, that was a great breakdown. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
And I think people can pull a few tidbits as to your idea towards how you invest and what you're looking for and your company looks for. So let's go back to the investment that you just closed on, because that's always exciting.
Absolutely.
So 12-unit apartment building in Edmonton.
Yep.
So first question, because I know people are probably wondering this, how do you find this property, or where do you look for these properties?
So for us, we're looking kind of for that diamond in the rough. And so just, we were kind of talking about this earlier, is just making sure you have a good network of individuals that you want to be talking to. It's so important. So, we've got a network of great realtors, mortgage brokers, and lawyers, and we really reach out to our contacts, and we just let them know these are the types of properties that we're looking for. So like this particular project that we acquired, there's 8 units that are 2 bedrooms, which are very ideal. They're very large. So they really focus on kind of more of that young family clientele that we were looking for. And then 4 of those units are basement units or single bedroom units. And so again, these are more student based. So we've got a really good mix within this building in itself. But this project here was done very well. This is a second generation owned apartment. The property's been completely paid off, very much under rented. All the units have been renovated, brand new roof that cost like $55,000 to put on, new windows, everything. And the problem that he had here is he just had the rents way too low. So it devalued on his building. He just didn't necessarily know it because he just really was an unsophisticated investor. We were very fortunate that my realtors come up and said, hey, listen, this thing is going to be coming up for sale. And it was more of a one-on-one discussion. And we bought it within about 3 hours of having kind of an open dialogue with the seller and just been able to capitalize that.
And so how 3 hours, that's a quick turnaround.
Very much so.
How much, so you only had 3 hours to actually do the research, or was it a 3 hour decision in regards to actually going forward with
3 hours to put an offer in and to get it secured. So sometimes some of the strategies that we tend to use is like if we know our numbers very well. And that's one of the things we kind of highlighted even earlier on. It's just like, know your numbers. You need to understand it, have a little bit of knowledge about what you're doing. But because I've been in the game for so long, we've been paying close attention to what the types of projects we're looking for, the types of numbers we're looking for. So when we did some kind of quick analysis on what the numbers look like, is like this one sticks out, and there's a significant future opportunity with this particular project as well. So we presented them with an offer, which we thought was very, very good for us and actually for him. It was kind of a win-win scenario, and it worked out well for all parties. Even in the very, very end, as we're closing this, our seller actually didn't want to sell anymore because he came to the realization he made a very big mistake in his valuation, and he was actually trying to get out. But we did secure the property. And
Perfect.
It's been done,
Perfect. And so I imagine that for your team, when you're doing this, you have a specific type of analyzer tool or a series of tools that you use to analyze this. Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely true. Yeah.
Perfect. And are you looking at primarily current rent or projected rent in your circumstance?
So when we look at our analysis, I base any of my details to my investors or even to myself is based on current rent. So we want to have a snapshot of current reality. And so the numbers that I was talking to you about before is what's the property cash flowing. I look at it based on what the current reality is. So I know once we take it over, this is what this property is going to produce and it should do well. Now, with the understanding, there's a budget and there's a plan and there's a focus and an exit strategy that comes along with that project as well. And what is the future opportunity that we're paying close attention to? So there is a plan, but what we want to know is what's happening today. And then more importantly, what is the plan to execute an increased valuation, be it 3, 4, 5, or even a year from now.
Sure. So real life situation here. One of the challenges that a lot of landlords are facing right now is with COVID. there were a lot of rules and restrictions around, raising rent.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what Alberta was doing, but potentially raising rent as well as, moving people out or quote unquote kicking them out of their units and so forth. And I know you're not trying to necessarily displace people, but if you're doing renovations and changing a building, quite frequently you do need to end tenancy at a certain point. So what does that look like for you? Is that a concern, purchasing an apartment building like that?
Well, for me, in some of the markets, so for example, you referenced Alberta, that there really isn't, we don't have the same strict regulations as we do here in BC or even in Ontario. So some of the tight rules in regards to rent increases here is roughly about 1.4%. In Alberta, it's infinite. We can raise it as much as we want, even 100% if we really wanted to. And in regards to ending tenancy, that's not an issue. They did do a freeze of roughly around, I think it was 60 days at that time, and it wasn't really a big concern. But it goes right back to, when you own a piece of real estate as an investment, as a business, you got to also remember your tenants are your clients and your customers. And that's where maybe a little bit of a shift needs to be adjusted. And so when you own real estate and you've got tenants, you need to try to you need to have a clarity of what your culture is going to be as well within your client base.
Just that's good. That's good. Just like a team or a company or something like that.
Just like a company, so for example, you communicate accordingly with your clients. You're doing it right now, and you're talking to them and just sharing some information with them. And we do the same thing in return. We look at our investors as our clients, but our actually most important clients are actually our renters. So our renters are the ones that are paying us each and every single month. So we want to make sure that they have a good experience, and it's not like that we're going to provide them with all the fixtures and everything that they want, but we got to treat them with true respect and understanding and clarity. So even during this time with COVID, as soon as this all hit, we definitely were lots of communication with our investor clients, with our renters, and just say, listen, if you're stuck and you're in a rough position, here's some supporting places where you can get some extra support. If you're having some challenges, reach out to us and our management team, and we'll find a solution one way or another, and working with them. So what happens is, in a situation where you hear all these ugly stories, and it happens, like rent evictions and all these things, more often than not, it's just because they've not done a really good job in creating that kind of positive culture with their customers or their renters. And that's why you get that kind of reputation as, we're landlords and that's slumlords, right? Yeah. So I hate that. It drives me crazy, which kind of goes back to why we want to teach and educate. It's just like, we as a group, as investors, you own one property or 100 properties, we all need to do a better job in regards to getting that terminology slumlord out and trying to have a little bit more better respect with our tenants.
So we got to stop right now, because that's it's a mic drop moment for me. It's not a realization for me per se, but it's something that's not talked about enough. And in so many businesses that you see fail or have struggles with, retaining their client base or growing their business, one of the biggest challenges, they're not considering the end user. They're not considering the client on the other end of the equation, or the patient or the member or whoever it is. It's about what's helpful for me as the company. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people, whether it's intentional or not, think about, I'm a landlord. I need to get my rent. I need to get paid. And that's what it is. And that's fair to a degree, because it's an investment and so forth. But we have to remember that we're in a human business and we're working with people.
Absolutely.
Which is huge. So if you're listening to this right now, and obviously you are, because you heard me just say that, wow. I think you need to pick that up right away and think about that. If you're thinking about getting into the investment game, or any business for that matter, is always think about what is the experience for the end user. It may not always be perfect, but you can always get better, and just remember that, right? That's great feedback, Mike. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
Let's move forward a little bit and talk about where some opportunities lie. So a lot of the people on our show who listen to our show are just getting to the market. Some people are real estate agents. Some people are from different parts of the industry. And the most common questions that I get asked are, where's the opportunity? Yep. So, Mike, we are about, 4 months post lockdown. Sure. Thankfully, hopefully not going into another one. And my question for you today is, Mike, where are the primary opportunities for someone, I'll be more specific here, who's maybe a first or second time investor and maybe not ready to get into the multi-unit? Where should they be looking today?
Are we talking about markets, or are we talking about types of properties?
Maybe you could start with the markets, and then we can move into property types.
So right now with COVID, and this has been an interesting piece, and we talk about kind of education, and this is one piece that we spend a lot of time in, is research and understanding the kind of different markets literally across the country, and in some cases North America as well. And so some of the key things that we pay attention to is GDP growth, unemployment rate.
Right.
We're looking for immigration, average weekly earnings, affordability. So we're looking at a lot of different statistics. And for the most common investor, that's just like, it's just overwhelming for a lot of people. We get that and understand that. But the challenge that we face right now is we've never seen a situation like this since I'm 40 years old. I've never seen anything like this, where statistics is literally out the window at this point, because none of the numbers make any fundamental sense whatsoever. And so when you got an unemployment rate pushing kind of around that 12 to 13%, roughly all over Canada, and every province is having this situation of unemployment rate, we've got the government kind of propping up the economy in a lot of ways with fictitious income, average weekly earnings, with CERB and other programs that are available there. Yeah. It's really tough to determine which markets and which economy is going to do very, very well. So a couple of bits of advice that I would give is pay really, really close attention. If people are actually seriously looking to invest in real estate, look at what the provinces, and if you are looking at Canada as a market, look at what the provinces are doing. Look at what your premiers are doing, and what are they trying to do to stir up the economy, to get things back, get people back to work, and where are those jobs going to be created? And that's a big one, is jobs. Once you see job growth starting to happen in a specific city or in a specific market, people will want to move where the jobs are going to be. So they become tenants and then hopefully homeowners.
So to your point, Mike, I know I cut you off mid-thought,
that's okay.
But I'm going to push you back on that. So let's just talk again, because so many of our listeners are on the West Coast. Yes. We do have some, I don't want to forget about you guys in Ontario and Alberta, but no. We're talking about West Coast today.
Yes.
Are there any opportunities on the West Coast or in BC as a whole?
Absolutely. So what I was going to reference is there's opportunities everywhere. There really is. And sometimes you just need to open our eyes to this. The one piece I think there's going to be some pretty big opportunities is actually out in the Fraser Valley. You're going to be seeing stuff probably on the island, and you'll be seeing stuff continuing out up into the interior, be it in Kelowna. So Abbotsfords, the Chilliwacks, be it in the Kelowna market. And I think the big thing that's going to shake things up a little bit is, with everything that's happened with COVID, a lot of people have that ability to now work from home. Well, a lot of people live relatively close to where they work. That's why they've initially lived there. But if people are starting to identify, and companies are stating, hey, listen, you're going to be able to work from home 3 to 4 days a week. Well, they may not want to live in Vancouver anymore. They might just say, listen, you're not going to spend $1 million on a condo that's right downtown Vancouver, or that same amount of money I can get out in Chilliwack for maybe $500,000. So, and again, don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but the reality is people will be much more willing to go outside of their main center, because it's all about affordability, keeping more money in their pocket. So if they're
we've seen that recently as well.
Very much so. And I'm sure that trend will probably continue, because there's lots of companies right now that I'm talking to and hearing about that are just like really questioning the amount of square footage space required in their office, when they can actually be effective working from home. And for people that are working, this is very accommodating, especially with families and other things.
So the argument quite frequently, not for me per se, but just generally speaking, that I hear is that the Fraser Valley is outpriced from an investment standpoint. There's not very much cash flow. Correct. As well as also in Kelowna. Kelowna's
same thing.
The cost of living, depending on where you are, is actually relative to income is actually higher in Kelowna than in the Fraser Valley in many circumstances. So, but you did reference that those could be a good place to invest. So what type of investment would someone be looking for?
Well, those ones really are kind of like your buy hold strategy. So something that would have maybe an upstairs suite. So if you're looking at a single family home that has the ability to have multiple streams of income, so you can get kind of like a garage, you see these things down here in Surrey a lot. You're seeing an upstairs suite, a downstairs suite, and then you also have a suite in the garage. You can see anything that has more multiple income streams, those will get closer to cash flow. And you're right, cash flow here in the Lower Main is very, very challenging, almost non-existent. So you got to be really, really careful when you're paying close attention to what is it you're wanting to accomplish. And it goes right back to what are some of your investment goals. So looking for markets that, for a lot of people that are investing in the Lower Mainland, what's reasonable for them is just getting it to break even. And maybe that is reasonable for people. So looking for those types of income streams, multiple income streams that it can support the asset or the property itself, and hopefully cover off a lot of your expenses. Another market is maybe even Mission as well. It's another market that is not really necessarily talked about too much. But again, it's getting people starting to come from be it Vancouver or Burnaby, and starting to look outside into the Fraser Valley.
So multi-units in some capacity is what you're suggesting.
Multi-suites, I guess, is the best way. Yeah.
Multiple suites. Okay, that makes sense. No, good feedback and good to hear, because I think a lot of people, I guess, in Lower Mainland are thinking, well, should I go to the interior? Yep. Should I go to the island? Speaking of the island, I'm sure you've had people ask you about it. Are there any particular cities that are looking good as far as growth and so forth, like you just suggested?
I'm not really that familiar with the island, to be really honest with you. But if there was one specifically, it'd probably be Nanaimo would be the one that's sticking out a little bit for me. So
Interesting. We've had some conversations with some folks there, and definitely curious to hear that. So Mike, again, really good feedback in regards to what your principles are as far as cash flow and looking at the multi-unit properties and your thoughts on the growth of the economy.
Yeah.
If we have someone today who owns a piece of a real estate and they're starting to wade the waters and looking into real estate investing, where should they look and who should they turn to typically? Like maybe obviously you, and it could be, or your Facebook group, but let's just be honest with ourselves and say, like, maybe you're not top of mind in terms of the person that they're looking for.
For sure.
Is there a way that this person should be looking to get started? And are there particular groups of people that they should be hanging out with? Or are you just going to say, hey, come check out my group?
Not
that's
at
okay
all.
too.
Not at all. Like, to be really honest with you, we're just one group of many that's out there. And I think in this world, especially with COVID, there's a lot of great people that are popping up, be it on social media. And that's where kind of one of the places that everybody's going on right now. So you go on Facebook and then you go to YouTube, and lots of different programs and lots of different places to go. And there's lots of fantastic investors that are taking some serious action. So for those that are actually looking to get some insight or learn a little bit more, that my recommendation is look for those people that are actually taking action and doing things, that are just not necessarily just doing a lot of this and a lot of just talking, but you want to see them actually be taking some action as well. And it doesn't have to be people that are actually just on YouTube or on Facebook or have a TikTok or whatever the case may be. There's lots of people that you can surround yourself of like mind, and you want to surround yourself with people that are actually taking action, learning from some of those experiences, learning some of those things that they want. Yeah. And then again, if you don't necessarily know where to go, well, this is where you can start to go out to like social media and different things and look at what some of those individuals are doing and paying attention. But the other part to this, probably no different than what will happen when this goes out too. Look at some of the comments, see some of the individuals that are maybe actually taking action, that are actually responding, maybe disagreeing or agreeing with me. And that's okay. I'm happy to have a little bit of a debate, but more importantly, I'm open to always listening as well. Listen to what some of these individuals are talking to, but more importantly, you got to feel comfortable with the person that you're listening to. Yeah. I may not be the person that's the right fit in regards to learning from, and that's okay, but there's lots of other people that are out there. Yeah. The important part is, just like anything, who do you feel comfortable with? Do you feel confident that person that you're working with or talking with, has a lot of respect, and more importantly, is willing to help you achieve that objective of owning an investment property? I
like what you said though about action takers, someone who's been involved in this type of whatever it is that you're looking to do in the past. I think that's quite big, and someone who's still actively involved in that arena. Again, I get so often asked on Instagram, like, hey, Alex, where do I even get started? How do I even build a plan? And to be completely honest with you, I wish I had time to sit down with each and every individual and tell them how to build a plan, but there's resources for that. Do you have a framework to what you would recommend people do if they're just kind of like, they've got this, maybe they have a ton of equity in their home and they're like, holy cow, where do I even start? Is there a framework you recommend?
I think the best part to begin with is you got to really understand, and for those, we can spend 2 hours just on this one particular topic in itself, but it goes right back to the simplistic point. What's your why? Okay. Well, understanding exactly what is it you want to accomplish. What are your goals? Look at yourself 5 years from now. I know it may sound very cliche-ish, as well as New Year's resolutions and all that wonderful stuff, but it has to start there. It really does. So when I work with any clients myself, that's always the very first question is, what is it that you want? We talk about investing in real estate, but why? Why do you want to invest in real estate? Well, it's because I want to generate some cash flow. I want to offset some income or whatever the case may be. Okay, now I've got an idea of why you want that. Okay. So start with that first and try to get some clarity to it. If you don't personally know that yourself, Engage your wife, engage your spouse, engage your family, have an understanding of what you're wanting to do. And then we build a plan of attack to try to accomplish that. So we start by understanding that part first and foremost. And then the second part is then you start to work with individuals that can maybe help support you. And you're right. You can't be just saying, okay, I want to be generating around $200 or $300 a month cash flow in an investment property. And now you're expecting your mortgage broker and your realtor to teach you how to do that. That's not their job. Their job is, Alex, your job is to find a mortgage for this person to help support them. But your job is not necessarily to teach them how to invest in real estate. The same thing with your realtor. Your realtor is there to help sell a property to you. And they're expecting you to have that knowledge to tell them that's the right one or not. So you need to find the right individuals to help support you with the learning. And then more importantly, is you send that information to your investment team, be it your mortgage broker, and say, Alex, I'm looking for this property. This is the type of program I'm looking for. Can you help me?
Okay.
And that's where you work.
That's a very fair point. And I think it's something where, to a point, like I do want to help people and help them understand. But to your point, it could be overstepping boundaries and suggesting what people should do. And I think the number one thing you hit when I'm talking to people is, why are you investing? What are your goals?
Yes.
And I think, again, that's such a big question for a lot of people. It's almost like being in a business. Why do you do what you do, right? Tough question to ask, but it's the number one question that you need to ask yourself to figure out what you're going to go from there. So Mike, really quickly, I just want to, for anybody interested, talk a little bit about the Facebook group you have.
Sure.
What's it called again?
Savvy Investor.
Savvy Investors.
Yep.
Savvy Investor.
Savvy Investor.
Okay. Yeah. SAVVY Investor. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I've been a part of your group for about 6 months or so now. I've seen a lot of people come, but one thing I've noticed is that you do a lot of educational content, kind of like we're doing right now. And you have a lot of guests on there who are investors and in very specific niches, which I love, because I'm even learning a lot, even just listening and watching that, which is really cool. Great. So again, if you're listening to this, guys, check out the group there on Facebook, Savvy Investor. Michael Ponte is what your name on Facebook is.
Yes.
Full on Michael. He runs a lot of educational content, which is, this is what the show is all about at the end of the day. Find the information, then reach out to the professionals and execute your plan, which is fantastic. Mike, any parting words, any feedback, anything that you want to share with anyone about what you're doing or what your plans are going forward? Or
my plans are just
with the group, the growth of the group and your company prosperity.
Yeah, well, I think for Savvy Investor, to begin with, it is a forum where people can kind of come and learn. So, to answer, you referenced the question, where do they go? Definitely come check it out. It costs you nothing. It's absolutely free. We bring in a lot of great content, lots of great guest speakers. Alex, thank you for being part of that as well. But it's about bringing the experts in to share some of their knowledge, and hopefully maybe these individuals can connect with these people that they feel comfortable with as well. But more importantly is bring that networking together amongst each other, and so that everybody can learn from each other. And then for our company side of things, we're in a growth mode too for us. And so the old saying, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. We see the situation as an opportunity, and we've been through a couple of recessions, obviously in Alberta, and we've been very successful during those times. So, this could be a great time for people that are looking to invest and get started. And so if you've ever considered that, definitely this is a great time for you to kind of explore it and look at some of the options, be it working, investing with the company or investing on your own. But this is a great time to at least get your head wrapped around it, understand it, get your team engaged, talk to the right people, and see if that's the right thing for you. And so for us, we're in growth mode. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. So again, check out Mike's group, Savvy Investor. I think you're going to learn a ton. If you are having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what to invest in and you want someone to guide you, Mike's your guy. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you very much for coming down. And if you guys have any other questions over and above that, make sure to reach out to us here at the YBR Remo Show. Mike Ponte, thank you so much for coming down. We really appreciate you, buddy. Yeah. Guys, we will see you all at the next show. Thank you for listening. Episode 34 out.